Knowing Pancham is a huge extension of Panchaman Makes the film, in the sense that everybody who got charmed and benefited from the film, so to say, in terms of understanding who R.D. Burman was, here we have a lot more of his life being spoken about, discussed, deliberated upon, analyzed, talked about in various ways, about his art, his craft, his experiences, and why he was who he was. The collection Knowing Pancham, it comes with the film. The film itself is quite an experience. The coffee table book is another kind of an experience. And in between is this 5.5 hours of priceless material, which deserves to reach out to people. When Panchaman Mixed released, and before its release, the kind of festival screenings it saw and the kind of other invited screenings that happened with the film, over 150 of them where I was present, invariably this question would come up, and I would be asked that, so what are you doing with the remainder of the footage, which was 100 hours plus? And at that point of time, I was so full of that edit that I couldn't have thought of doing it. But a little later, when I found that the question was a recurrent one, and I started looking at the archival footage that we had, I started seeing a sense in that what is it doing sitting in my hard drive? And why shouldn't it reach to people, to music scholars, to Pancham fans, to cinema lovers, everyone, because there was such rich material. And it's just that after that it needed 6 months of consolidated work on it, with a couple of editors, with a couple of team people. For the first time in India probably, we have meta tagged, which means that we have all the people who have spoken, selected priceless material, and then segmented it through stories of his life and his art and his craft. So it becomes a very interesting audio book, video book in a certain way, for people to source and access and know more of what R.D. Burman was all about, what Hindi film music is all about, what creativity is all about, and what cinema and music do, the magical things that they do to combine together to give pleasure to all of us. R.D. Burman is one of the greatest iconic figures that we have in Indian music. 1994 was the year that he passed away, and after so many years, what drove me to even make the film, and the quest continues, is that people spoke so often about what a genius he was and what brilliant his art was and craft was, and that his songs are timeless and eternal, but nobody really tried to understand what made his music really timeless, or what made him the unique composer that he was. How did and why did R.D. Burman compose such brilliant music? Where did it come from? The Agra Gharana background that he imbibed, probably he inherited from S.D. Burman and Brishdev Chatterjee and Fayaz Khan, is on the same gradient. And mixed with his own experimentations of his Western exposure that he did, I think together he combined into a very unique compositional arrangement, song after song after song after song, which resonated with people because they sounded beautiful, because they sounded intimate, because they also sounded simple. His was a time when, if you notice, dominated by Kishore Kumar, the chalan of hey hey ho ho etc. started before the song as a prelude. Hey hey ho ho, all these things. It made people come closer to the song because it sounded like you and me sitting and humming. Why did the same musicians who would also play for other musicians, other composers, why do they say that with R.D. Burman their best came out? There has to be something, and it's not just a question of music, it's a question of man management, it's a question of human interaction. And I think that's again another dimension in which the film becomes a beautiful experience. Very interestingly, to my surprise also, uh, a song like Kuch To Log Kahenge came up. Okay, there were so many composers who envied him for that song and continue to envy him in a very healthy way. And then there were, so many other compositions. If you take Rim Jim Gire Sawan, or even the Demi Rosso song that he picked up, Mehbooba, Mehbooba. It's a lifted song, but people have spoken about it as their favorites, and not for the fact that it was an already popular Western number, but the kind of things that he added therein, the kind of nitty-gritties and the kind of detailing that he did, which was very, very, very Indian and very R.D. Burmanish. Song after song, film after film, he created masterpieces which sounded so simple. But there are songs which sound very simple, but songs which actually are very difficult. But he had that magic, and so people wanted to sing, people wanted to hum. The moment you look into any R.D. Burman song, it grows. The way songs would get composed in that time, in that era, was when they would have the sitting room creative sessions, when R.D. Burman's creative sessions were famous, where he used to have 9 gems, so-called Navratan in today's age as people interpret it. He would come up with a tune, a lot of them would add to that, and then he would work on that like almost an architect, stone by stone, brick by brick, and build a great edifice. Today, great songs are recorded over 6 days, 7 days. They would record those with live musicians in under half a day. That was where the magic probably came in, because there would be the director, and there would be, say, someone like Kishore Kumar, and there would be R.D. Burman, and now they have already worked on what Shammi Kapoor's feel would be. And then if there would be Mohammad Rafi, he would say, ye line main aise karke dalu, and Panchamda would probably build on it, and they would. So everyone was clued with each other. So I think Panchamda definitely would have some thoughts to it, but it was always a team which really added to it. I think like the kind of songs that he created for Rajesh Khanna, for example, would be so stylish and so elegant, would be very different from what he created for Amitabh Bachchan. It's called Diamonds and Rust, and it's the name struck because it's a very famous John Baez song in honor of Bob Dylan. You know what memories can bring? They bring diamonds and rust. And that's the name of the song. And I felt that there's nothing better to describe R.D. Burman's life, which was all diamonds and which was rust. There are glittering, moments in his life, films, top-class films, and then there was the period of rust. It just crisscrosses and brings out an R.D. Burman that becomes so much beautiful to experience as a whole. I feel that why certain life stories become inspirational, why they become, study material, is because of what it carries within, what it shows us, what it provokes us to think, what it makes us to reflect upon. And I think that such great minds coming together in terms of interviews and observations and insights in this film, I think what really becomes fascinating is when you hear them talk, you happen to give it a thought. There is every now and then that a wow will come out. There's an every now and then that, oh really, comes out. And there's every now and then that, oh, I knew about it, but I didn't know it was like this, that comes out. One of its interesting sections are where people talk very intimately about the low days, which I could not capture too much in the film because I had the limitation. Otherwise it would sound as if I'm talking only about his low days. And even the little that I touched upon in the film invariably makes a huge impact. There are people who cry. There are people who have come and told me that you made me cry and the film makes me cry. How could they do that to R.D. Burman? How could the industry do that to R.D. Burman? How could friends do that to R.D. Burman? So on and so forth. I think in the film Usha Uthup says that, that line continues to haunt me, that give me a rose when I can smell it. What's the point if you put the rose on my dead body? You put the best of flowers and it means nothing to me. And when I needed flowers, you never brought one for me. And I think films like these are probably needed to bring him alive. We are trying to reach it out to as many people as possible. We are trying to make sure that people know about it, because our experience has been whoever has known about it have gone, seen it and have found it brilliant. That is a very interesting cue for us, which is what triggered us to actually spend 6 months' time to create this collection, and another 6 months' time to work on the book and other things. So there's a lot of effort that has gone into it, and I hope that people really find it experiential as a collection.